Welcome back, fam. Hope you guys are doing good and having a great day. If you're not, please let me know what I can do to help you. Until then, what we're talking about today is the illusion of choice. It's very rare today that we even think about the illusion of choice. And that's because we could definitely say that on one hand, we're definitely conditioned for that, right? From early education and on to do more and accept less, but for very specific things. And we'll get into that a little bit later. We can also say that through social media, through the internet, through the news, we're constantly distracted from what's actually going on the back end, right? I don't think it's really a coincidence that every single year a new phone drops. The latest and greatest graphics card comes out. Celebrity drama, all kinds of different things, right? And while we're distracted by that, things are happening on the back end. A lot more sinister things are happening on the back end. Like 600,000 Chinese students who are legally obligated to spy on us coming into our nation to go to our college campuses, collect information, and send that back to China. Or the fact that China is actively buying almost 400,000 acres of our land. Or Blackstone buying up 58,000 single family homes, BlackRock buying all sorts of other companies, and then also funding companies to push a certain propaganda, such as Target. If you guys will remember a few years ago, it seems that conditioning memory out of people is also a thing that's happening today too. That's something that we also have to remember. But all of these things are happening, and it's no coincidence. Same thing for all of these brands, right? Because if we think that we have all of these brands around, we think that all these different brands are owned by different companies, which gives us the idea that a free market is alive and healthy. However, the single most detriment to a free market is greed, because greed leads to monopoly, and monopoly leads to centralization. Because where a monopoly happens, there's one company that buys up everything. And before you know it, even though you see a different name brand, it's still owned by the same company. It doesn't matter where you go, all roads lead back to Rome, right? So that is the illusion of choice. It means free market is dying. There is no free market anymore. If that were true, then small business would have been able to operate during COVID-19. So we are coming very quickly to a point in time when everything will be run by a handful of companies. And that is very quickly going to lead into socialism. And well, we know what happens after that. See, this is exactly what Karl Marx was talking about. When free market dies, that's when you get socialism and then communism. It's the inevitable cycle because of the human condition, right? We want to do less and get more. And, well, when you have the buying power to do that, it's going to happen eventually. Because if you think these companies are really going to play fair, no. Look at our farmers. Right? The powers that be are constantly spraying farmers' crops, farmers' gardens with aluminum. eventually squeezing them out of their resources. Our governments are squeezing us out of our homes through these property taxes that are unconstitutional. Federal taxes are unconstitutional, as it was declared in 1895. So you have all of these things that are happening on the back end, and it slowly boils the water, right? The frog in the boiling pot kind of analogy, right? Where we don't really know what's going on until things get so bad that all of us are forced to recognize it and then deal with it. I think we're coming to that point. I really do. I really do think we're coming to that point. And this was allowed. Again, because these monopolies have captured our government through lobbying, bribery, whatever it may be, or direct conflict of interest. The judge that let the animal that brutally unalived Irina owns a company, a rehabilitation company, that she then ordered that animal to go through. These are who these people are. They're all the same. Doesn't matter if they're a politician or they're a CEO. CEOs are making anywhere from 300x to even 400 or 500x times the salary that their employees are making. And while you, the average American, hasn't made anything more than $7.25 an hour since 2009, and is still that very same amount of money, they're making much, much more profit. And through these H-1B visas that are now coming in large numbers, because America doesn't have any talent, well, then that's only going to continue to skyrocket for the wealthy elite, while we, the average American, continue to drown in our debt, removed from our homes, and starve to death. All of this has happened through the illusion of choice. Because just as I was talking about our government earlier, when we think that we're voting for someone who cares about the country, one of the biggest scams recently is MAGA. It was one of the biggest scams because we thought that through a conservative government, things were going to change. But then as soon as that conservative government became elected, not once but twice, it was still business as usual. Second Amendment rights were still being infringed. First Amendment rights were still being infringed. God knows how many other rights. Except for the 16th Amendment, of course. Weird how in 1913 everything happened at the same time. The Federal Reserve, the 16th Amendment. Right after it was declared unconstitutional. Interesting. Anyways, different rabbit hole for a different day. The illusion of choice started around that same time too, with the coal industry, the oil industry especially. You can even say the automobile industry, railing industry for sure, factories, right? The shirtwaist incident. That's what it leads to. And eventually we all come to the point to where all of us will be forced to accept less. because it's either crumbs or we get nothing. And this is exactly why I hate the phrase, at least it's nothing. Right? How many times have we heard that phrase? At least or at least yeah, at least it's nothing, right? At least we get this or nothing. So I really hate that phrase because we are then conditioned to accept less and less and less and less until we eventually have nothing. And that's the goal. Total control. That's why I say free market is already dead. It's gone. It's gone. It is increasingly difficult today for small business to survive. People love small businesses. They want to support small businesses. But when you have these bigger corporations who are more than happy, let's take Killdozer, for example. If you guys don't know about the Killdozer, there was a guy that had owned his own company, but because I believe it was a automobile shop. I believe it was an automobile shop. And because of corruption in law enforcement, government, working hand in hand with the local businesses there, they were absolutely destroying this man's life to the point to where his life was destroyed. His wife left him. And so he took matters into his own hands. And he did a lot of damage to their buildings. To note, no one died. No one was killed. But these businesses took a massive beating. I think that's what it's going to really come to. The greediness of the human condition to gain resources, preserve those resources, to oppress anyone else from taking their resources away is going to lead to direct conflict with other people. It's a cycle. It's the cycle of humanity. We're just like any other animal. We understand fairness. So do they. So it doesn't really take a rocket scientist to understand that when someone is taking too much, that's wrong. Or when someone is stopping you from getting what you need, right, that's wrong. I would say that that's probably the way I probably should have put that. But it's eventually going to lead to conflict. And that's I believe when everything will fall apart. Because when the illusion of choice shatters, that's when chaos begins. We don't want chaos. So, what do? We bring free market back. We outlaw these monopolies. Because there was an effort to outlaw these monopolies way back when, but then they started paying off politicians. And politicians started turning the other way. So, there you go. Outlaw lobbying, for sure. Outlaw lobbying. Outlaw, like I said, monopolies. Make it a fair game for both big and small business. Outlaw buying single family homes. Outlaw that. And start putting harsh punishments on big business, politicians who allow these things to happen. But for that to happen, the average American would have to stop working and start running for office. And when can people really have the time to do that? When can people find the time to do that? Because we're so enveloped in our work. If we miss a single day, then it could very well mean the potential to lose our homes because the rent isn't paid, the mortgage isn't paid. I know that all too well. So I understand it. But someone out there can do it. Hell, if I could run myself, I would. And I do believe eventually that's the plan, to run for office. I would like to do something like that. But there are some things that I need to take care of first, and that's you guys. So I want to shatter this illusion of choice and not bring chaos, but bring order. To have us realize that the things that are going on in the back end should be brought to the forefront. So make sure when the newest phone drops, start wondering what's going on. What's happening on the back end? Are we going to bail out another Argentina while our veterans starve in the streets? While people who make $40,000, $50,000 a year are starving because they're feeding their kids before they feed themselves? They're going into credit card debt. And they're not bailed out, but Argentina is? Ask yourself that. What's going on? What are the things that I could research? It's about time we start having these conversations. We start freeing our minds. We start learning the truth of everything. Exactly why this channel exists. And we bring about the change that'll be good for all of us. That'll be fair for all of us. Because we all know today is very unfair. As I've said it before, we are living in a social class warfare. It's been in the making for a long time now. The wealthy elite are oppressing the lower class, so much so that the middle class does not exist anymore. So it's about time we start taking that power back. It starts with freeing our minds, wondering what else is going on that's distracting us. Or I'm sorry, what else is going on the back end while the distractions are happening. We talk about that. We expose that. And we encourage our politicians to do the right thing. If not, we replace them ourselves. We run for office. So none of us want chaos. We want order. We want fairness. And can't have that in especially the economy, the political atmosphere, economic atmosphere, social atmosphere that we're living in now. So we got to change it. So you guys let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. But that's pretty much going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If this helped you out at all, please like, share, subscribe, join the family. If you need me for anything, please reach out. I love you all. Look after yourselves, both mind and body. Look after each other. I love you all. I wish you a lovely day. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.